a few of you online, so I'm going to give it a few minutes and let more people join. And just like normal, this is one of our standards, our third in the series of webinars with the York Small Business Enterprise Center. And there should be an area to place a comment on your screen while this is going on. I'm going to attempt to monitor that as I go. And if I miss any, we'll try and snag them at the end. And of course, you can always reach out to me separately. If you have any questions afterwards or anything else, the emails you've received from me, the reminders for this webinar, all of those actually come from my email address, so you can reply to any one of those, and I will be able to assist you. And otherwise, as people are starting to filter in today, and I'll give it a few more minutes, this a little bit different than the first two. For those of you who joined for first, it was Facebook and Instagram ads, and the second one was on Google search ads. And those ones were a bit more in depth, albeit 101 intro level to them. This one is a little bit different. It's going to be a bit of a lightning round today. We are going to go through the framework that you'll need to set up in advance to kind of build that business online in 30 minutes a day. And if you do these things up front, then on an ongoing basis, you should find that, grab a morning coffee, sit down, you should be able to get through most of what you need to do as far as building your business online through social media and so forth. You should be able to do it in less than 30 minutes a day. So let's go through that today. There's a few of you joining. So again, as I get ready to kick off, and I will do my best to get through a pretty large presentation in an hour, but just a reminder that to feel free to try and type any comments you have as we go. I will attempt to stop periodically to look, and then, of course, reply to any of the emails I've sent if you have questions for me directly afterwards. I'm going to start off, and let's hope that for those of you who were with us a couple of weeks ago, let's hope YouTube doesn't flag us today like they did last time. But here we are. We're ready to go. Building your business online in 30 minutes a day. Today's agenda, number one, claiming and optimizing your listings. You should only have to really do that once and then maybe peek in every now and then. Optimizing your social accounts, how to use them the best way. Number three, planning your content. Number four, how to execute that content. That's where your piece is going to come in on 30 minutes a day to try and get that social content live and up. We usually don't have time or a desire to go into a bit more about me, but it's always in the presentation for you afterwards. Now, as I just mentioned off the top, at the end of this, you're going to know how to build your business using social media and some digital channels in less than 30 minutes a day, but there is a little bit of hard work up front. The first couple months you do this is going to be a little bit more difficult. You are going to get the hang of it really quickly, and then you're going to find out that this is pretty simple to do. So how do we go about claiming your business? First, before we say how, let's look at the why. So why would you want to focus on local search? Well, because 80% of local searches on a mobile phone lead to conversion, meaning people who are searching for you or your business or the kind of product you offer, when they search on mobile, typically they are looking for something immediate and they get it done. There's a 57% greater chance of a visit if you're found via mobile search. Most brands receive 10 times more traffic to their Google My Business page than their website. Those of you who don't know what a Google My Business page is, that's when you're searching for a company or a brand or a restaurant or somebody on Google, and you have that little block on the right side of the search results. That is a Google My Business page. People can click through there. They can read a bit more about you, get your hours, your directions, things like that. Those get surprising amounts of traffic. I'm going to teach you how to go about claiming it so that you can see exactly how much traffic you're getting there. And then finally, 90% of consumers say they base their buying decisions on online reviews. So how do you do it? The first thing you're going to do is go to google.com/business. And that's where you're going to start the process of either claiming or creating your business listing. And why is this important? Well, people who do text searches, and nowadays you're getting a lot of people using voice searches, whether it's through their phone or if you have one of those Alexas or Google Homes or so forth, a lot of people looking for things through voice search. When you build your business, if you have a physical address, it's going to appear within Maps as well. So you're going to appear within Search and Maps. Now, after you've claimed it in Google, and we're going to go into, I mentioned today's a bit of a lightning round. There is going to be a download you're going to receive that's going to guide you through how to do this. There are other location networks. So whereas most of us do our searching on Google nowadays, and that's really the first place you want to be, and the place you want to be primarily, There are a few others. On the screen now, you're looking at things like Yellow Pages, Bing, which is owned by Microsoft, Facebook. If you have a page, you probably have an address on it, or you should if you have an address, and that is also a search result for people. Foursquare is another one, and the last one on the screen there is Yelp. Now, Yellow Pages is oddly important for Canadian businesses as a place where many other businesses source their location information. That's the same kind of thing for Foursquare. Not a very large site or high usage on its own, but a lot of other companies use their information and their address database for their software. So it is a place where you want to actually go in, claim your business. So we're going to go through that. And then how do you find even more places? So one of the most important things for you to understand if you have an address for your business is that consistency is really, really important. And that means that your address needs to be exactly the same, your company name needs to be exactly the same, your phone number needs to be exactly the same across all places. The more consistency you have with your information, the more likely people like Google are going to surface your information higher, and the greater chance that you're going to be discovered. So if you're trying to find people who've shared information about you that might be a little bit inaccurate and you want to change it, here's an example using our friends over at Market Brewery. Google variations of your address with your business name and see if you can turn up inconsistent uses of your address. So on the screen now, we're seeing 17775 Leslie Street, Unit 4. We're seeing the second search result contains that address without the unit number, and the third one contains the address with street short form to ST and the use of number 4. Now, by the standards of Google, those are 3 different addresses. So you need to figure out which one is the right one, then contact the other 2 sites and request that they change those addresses. Again, if you do this once, chances are people are not going back through and changing them again. So it is something that while it's going to take a little bit longer than 30 minutes the first time, you will be able to get behind it or get ahead of this and start having that consistency take place throughout the internet. So establishing consistency, I mentioned, is important. And why is that? Well, there's 3 ways that you can boost your Google performance, meaning how high you rank. Both, most of us rank well for our own brand names, but when you start diving a little bit further into things like marketing company near me or sandwich shop near me, how do you appear higher? Well, number 1, accuracy is really important. Your name, address, and phone number are no longer enough. Google now accesses other basic information like your hours of operation, your latitude and longitude, the categories of your business, and a series of other pieces. I'm going to give you a download shortly in the email that comes out after this webinar. That's going to tell you exactly how to place that information so you know what you need to say on all these different sites. For me, the second one is consistency. The information can't just be accurate on Google because Google verifies via many other sources. So I mentioned a minute ago that there are a variety of different pages that you need to go to make sure your information is there and consistent. So you want your information to be exact on your website, your local Facebook page, Foursquare, Yelp, data aggregators, Yellow Pages, all these places. So the last couple slides kind of guided us through how we do that. That does mean that if your address in one site says ST instead of street and in other sites says street, one of those needs to be fixed. Otherwise, it's not consistent. The third one we're not going to go into too much today is called recency. That means Google rewards recently published content and signs of engagement across these sources. That means if you really want to take search seriously moving forward, you kind of need to have a blog on your site and you need to frequently post information. That's up to you. We're not going to go into it today. It's just a bit of a lobbed freebie towards you to say that if Google really finds it important that you have frequently published, recently published content, and what they mean by signs of engagement, people commenting, sharing it on social media, things like that. To look into for yourself going forward. We won't go too much into that today. We're going to focus a bit more on general social content. So how do you optimize locally? I'm going to give you a file at the end of this webinar that's going to give you a single file of accurate information about you and your location. It's going to be a piece of just a spreadsheet. You're going to go in there and you're going to say, this is my address. This is exactly how I spell it. This is my phone number. This is my hours of operation. This is whether or not I have, what kind of parking do I have? All those kinds of pieces. You're going to have one source of information about you and your business. If you have multiple businesses, then use it multiple times. Then you're going to go through and claim your business. So we talked about that one of the first slides with Google. You can usually do that in most other locations like Bing, Yellow Pages, Yelp, and so forth. Update it all so it's exactly the same. And then every now and then, sometimes I say quarterly, for some businesses it's just annually, go through and make sure your information hasn't been changed by user-generated content. And I often put seek ways to reward fans and engage challengers. If you're going through the process of claiming your location in places like this, read the reviews, read the comments, see if there's people you can talk to, people who love your business or people who've had problems with it. So this is what your business information template will look like that you'll download later on today. And when it's complete, it does become your definitive collection of information. You're going to attempt to make sure that every place that you go to uses this exact spelling, numerical interface, everything is going to be exactly the same. And then again, if you have any questions about how this works, please email me afterwards because I would be happy to talk about it. So let's go into quick optimizing Facebook and a few little pieces that you can do right after this this webinar today to improve things. One of the big ones that I see is that one of the big differences we'll say between some of the larger brands like Starbucks on the screen now and some smaller SMBs, smaller businesses, is the use of text on cover photos. They really don't want to do it, and Facebook really advises against it as well. So it's not something that they even want you to do. What they want is to use that as a place to have a very high quality text-free image or video that can't help but captivate the visitor. Now that's, I did say video, and for those of you who don't know, you can use a video as a cover photo on Facebook, and it's a great option to do so because it really stands out when someone loads it. But don't use it as a thing to say, you know, here's our menu, or here's our latest special, or here's our hours. And I see a lot of those things, but then you look on the screen now and you see what Starbucks does and you go, wow, that looks great. It looks compelling. It's something that you want to take a look at. And there are other issues with using on photos, specifically on Facebook and Instagram, most of them, as we discussed in a previous webinar, when you try to promote. So if you try to promote content on either of those platforms and text makes up more than 20% of your image, it most often will not be promoted. The second one is a legible or recognizable profile photo. So a lot of companies will use their logo as a profile photo, and that is most often a really great option. But the problem is you've got a 1-inch by 1-inch circle on many screens when you look at how a feed works on, say, a mobile phone. So if your logo is something that, as an example, that it looks like a rectangle versus a square, that becomes really difficult to be visible within a space. So we have a few options on the screen now, things like Bulletproof and Glenfiddich, who just use that little art portion of their logo without the words. And that can often work because most often your logo is going to be in conjunction with your name. If not, create a stacked or square version of your logo, and that would suffice when it comes to these square spaces that most social accounts seem to use. Now let's look at settings. So those of you who have a Facebook page, there is a sea of settings when you get inside of there, and I imagine a lot of it is confusing. So this is meant to be a bit of a lightning round in some of the settings that you want. Number one, shortcuts. So pin your page to shortcuts, and that means when you're in your own Facebook account, you can easily access it from the top left. Second one is page verification. You do want to do this. Most often, if you have a publicly listed phone number, that will be enough. They'll call you with a code. You'll enter the code within this settings area, and you will be verified. If you don't have that type of business that has a publicly verifiable phone number, you're going to have to send in a utility bill essentially with your address on it, proving that you are who you say you are. Doing that, though, does it help you appear higher in Facebook searches, and it really does establish credibility that Facebook has given you that elusive blue check mark that everybody seems to want. Visitor posts, I would say for most of you, you want people to add content to your page, right? So someone posting on your page, sharing a photo, sharing a review, something like that, usually for most businesses is a positive thing because it generates more awareness and it appears as a story within their feeds to their friends. So you reach more people. Fourth one is messages. We are into an era now, especially when you're talking about a slightly younger audience, if you're reaching, say, millennial audience or so forth, that people really don't want to pick up a phone anymore. Sometimes they want to email. Email is great. Your website probably has that option to it. But when it comes to sharing content on something like Facebook, You will find a lot of people want to take their support messages or just their questions within Facebook. Don't use Messenger as something as a way to drive people to phone you. Use it as an actual customer service channel. It's a new era. People want to speak to you that way. I would 100% turn that on. Let people reach you privately, and we'll go through an app in a moment that's going to help you answer those questions via your mobile phone. Audience optimization. So this can be helpful. It sounds, the word restrict, I think, turns some people off. Restrict the visibility of your posts based on audience, location, language, age, or gender. I turn this on, and the reason I do so is that, and let's first frame up, if you have an adult-oriented business or a local business that can't reach beyond certain borders. Say I've dealt with people who can't go into Quebec, people who don't want to speak to Americans, things like that. Then you can use those restrictions very easily for that. But a lot of times these pieces are also best used just to isolate your message if you have a very specific audience. Either way, if you turn this on, you don't have to use it. It's just an option, so I always recommend turning it on so that if you do have a post that you need to restrict to a certain age or language or gender or location, that the option is there for you. Most people don't know that feature exists, and thus it never crosses their mind that it's an option. Tagging abilities. So open up more organic reach opportunities by allowing people to tag themselves or their friends within your photos. You actually have to turn that on. So if you've seen that on other pages and not on your own, now you know why. And then also similar page suggestions. So sometimes if you like a page, you'll notice that Facebook then drops down and presents maybe 3 or 4. And then if you scroll, there's even more similar pages that they think you might like. To appear within those suggestions, you actually have to turn that second last piece on the right image on. So do so today and take those free clicks. Now I mentioned Facebook Messenger, so you're going to have to go into the section you see on the screen now and turn on prompt visitors to send messages. What that means is when somebody goes to your Facebook page, suddenly they'll have an option, click on Messenger and message you. This obviously opens up a new channel where you have to speak to people through it. So we'll go through how you're going to monitor that, but it also opens up a new avenue for people to reach out to you. So I'm highly recommending you turn this on because it gives you a chance to speak to your audience. Now, most people then shift right into the send instant replies. And what that means is that if you've ever messaged a brand on Facebook and immediately received a response acknowledging that you have sent them a message, that's an instant reply. Now, the problem I also see is that I would say more than half the time I see one of those, that instant reply says, for a quicker response, call us. For a quicker response, email us. Don't do that, please. People are I'll put it this way. You have an audience, you're trying to reach an audience. They're reaching out to you in the place they want to communicate with you. If they wanted to phone you, they'd probably find your phone number. If they're messaging you on Facebook Messenger, it's because that's their desired place to communicate with you. Most people think if they take that option away, the person will call. What actually tends to happen is the person will go deal with a different business. So be wary about that and be willing to change things a little bit for yourself so that you're engaging with people in the place they want to be engaged with, and you will see some returns on that investment. Now, linking Instagram and Facebook. So if you go back to the first webinar I did, and it's live on the site, so you can go to loyalorder.com and view the Facebook and Instagram ads webinar, which also walked through how to set up Business Manager. Now, if you're using that, or even if you're not, and you just have your standard Facebook page, you can link your Instagram account to it so that the two areas are linked together. You can then edit your profile on Instagram from Facebook. You can manage your inbound comments within Facebook, and then you're also able to run ads in both places simultaneously. So all around beneficial and no real reason not to link the two. So click on that Instagram link within your Facebook settings, click on login, log into your Instagram account, add the two, and now you'll have those integrated on the back end. I think what most of you will find is the real benefit here is going to be those ads. And once you get into promoting and boosting posts, you're going to be able to promote to both places at one time. Okay. Optimizing Instagram. I'm going to do a quick look. I'm going to keep going. And if anyone does have comments, go ahead and type them because I can confirm that I can. So I'll keep going through here. Optimizing Instagram. No difference from Facebook. Your profile photo is going to appear very small. in most places on Instagram. So again, you most often want to make sure that it is something that's immediately visible and legible and people can tell it's you. On the screen now, we see a few different options that are mostly personal accounts, but just make sure that your customers, if they know you by a symbol, that's perfect. If they know you by your name, try and make sure that the logo you have fits within a square or small circle space. Keep that 1 inch by 1 inch category in mind. It's a very small block, but you want people to know who you are, especially when they're discovering new brands. Profile information. So one of the big hassles with Instagram for most brands is that there are no clickable links within posts. And you can type them, they're just not clickable. Now, the one place you do have is your bio, so use it. Go into your bio and make sure you can see on the screen there, one with runforwomen.ca. Make sure you have a clickable link. You can then let people know it's there. So when you're typing your description for your post, instead of typing a text URL and hoping they'll go to it, click the link in our bio. Change that link up frequently. Maybe every week, maybe every 2 weeks as you're shifting what you're talking about, or if you have a new blog post you want to drive to, or a new promotion you want to drive to, you can just say, click the link in our bio. People will do it, I promise you. It sounds like an extra step, but they will do it. Now, getting a business profile is very helpful for businesses, and a lot of people don't know about it or they get nervous about it. You default to a personal account. So when you sign up for an Instagram account, even if you're using your business name, it's going to default to a personal account. Now, if you're inside of Instagram settings on the right side of our screen right now, you'll see the option for sign up for a business profile. This is worth it for nothing else except you're actually going to get some stats. How many people saw your post? How many people engaged with it? How many people clicked on the link in your profile? You're going to get all of that information that you don't get from your personal profile. If you have an Instagram for your business, do this today. It's probably one of the more important things you're seeing today, is Instagram can be such a difficult area to quantify success. So if you change that, all of a sudden you have full access to every stat you probably could want on how people have engaged or viewed or clicked within your post. Now, for those of you who are using stories, so for those of who do or don't know, you can see the kind of red glow around the Kettle and Fire logo on the screen on the right side. That represents a story, and it means it's kind of like a live video. It's not live. That's a different thing. We can go live on Facebook and Snap or Instagram, but you can also just do a 24-hour what's called a story. It kind of resembles Snapchat and lives for about 24 hours, but you can save them. So if you see on the bottom of the screen, new soups, recipes, store locations, about us, that is this brand having run a story and then saved it to their profile. A really interesting option to start telling more stories about your brand. And then when people do click through a profile, and it happens more than you might think with Instagram, people will then have a chance to see different things about you. Don't save everything. You should be using stories. It's a beneficial feature, but save specific things that are really relevant to your brand and your audience and something that they will find compelling. These guys are doing it right. They have a new product. They're showing people how to use their product in recipes. A lot of people want to know where to buy it, so they have a store locations piece, and then they save things there. A quick tip that this brand is not using: if you plan ahead at the beginning and you've never done stories before and you've never saved them, great. For day one, take a photo or create a nice image as a bit of a cover photo, we'll call it. So you can see on the screen, new soups. It's got the picture of the soup pouring into the bowl. Recipes has got the picture of, I'm assuming, avocado toast. Picture those being an actual cover profile photo. Share that as a story and then save it. And it will save that as the very first option. And all of a sudden, all of those circles become visibly branded circles that tell you what's inside. Hopefully that makes sense. I think I didn't describe it right. Reach out to me if I didn't and you're wondering, and we'll go through it again. But it's a really good way to save some of your stories and really tell more of your story as a brand. Okay, we've set the table a little bit. If everybody does all those things, you're a little bit better off than you were before you joined today. I'm going to go through planning your month. You're going to have to do this usually a couple weeks before the next month. So you would be thinking about starting pretty soon for May. And you're going to do this once a month. You're going to sit and plan exactly what kind of content you're going to post and why you would post it and why people would want to see it and engage with it. Let's go through it. I'm going to send you today my content calendar strategy worksheet. It will be available on the site as well. This is I promise you, for everybody listening to this is the exact same spreadsheet that I use with every client that I have, no matter the size. I have used this spreadsheet with people who have hundreds of locations across 2 countries, and I've used them as I do today for myself as one guy in a room in the Newmarket area. Use this, get used to it. Once you get used to it, you're going to see it makes a lot of sense. It's going to be your overhead view of the month. On this very first tab, it's going to look like a calendar. You're going to start planning out key dates for the month. That can be key dates, as you see on the screen, things like Easter Sunday and Easter Monday, but it can also mean things that are just key dates for you and your brand. As you can see on the screen here, I run a side project podcast, so we had an offsite on the 2nd. I included that as a key date because it was something that we wanted to talk about. And then on the right, notes and content direction thoughts. That's where you're just starting to frame up, well, I think I'm going to talk about this thing. I think I'm going to talk about this holiday. This is kind of important. And I think in my head, I'm thinking that I want to do this with that post. Start framing things up with that first tab. And then you're going to take those things and move them into the next tab on the spreadsheet, which is your actual month. So as you look on the screen now, you're seeing, as an example, March 1st, 2018, the day of the week, that's a Thursday, and then the copy idea. So what exactly am I thinking I want this post to be about? This is not the actual post. This is just you brainstorming with yourself. Once you start to isolate those thoughts, you are able to actually make the post for Facebook and Instagram within this spreadsheet. On Facebook, a couple guidelines. Keep it relatively brief. No hashtags. URLs are great, and @ tags are also great. That means you can tag other brands, you can tag other people, stuff like that. When you shift to Instagram, it changes a little bit. You can actually have more copy on Instagram. People kind of come to expect it. The copy gets reduced quicker, so not much is seen right off the bat, but a lot of people will then expand it and read a lot more. So I actually do advise that your posts can be longer on Instagram than they are on Facebook. Get to the point quickly, though, because like I mentioned, you're only going to get about 1 sentence's worth before people have to expand it. Hashtags are recommended here versus Facebook where they are not. @ tags will still work there. You can tag other brands and people, but URLs are not clickable. We talked about that already. So if a URL or a clickable link is important to your post on Instagram, use the trick I taught you a couple slides ago where you change your profile URL on Instagram, and then your text would say, click the link in our bio. Let me go over a couple of the important pieces, the pillar and the purpose. What's a content pillar? Okay. So these next couple slides are going to be the most difficult piece for people, and I get it. Everybody I talk to doesn't like this part, but I promise you everybody who does it likes it when they're done. What we're going to do is place a couple guardrails on what you do and what you say within social media, because it does a few things. First, it creates a bit of consistency around the type of content you're sharing. And as time moves on, your audience comes to expect certain things from you. Primarily, it also stops you from being kind of self-congratulatory or talking about yourself as a brand too much versus what's actually relevant to the person who's reading it. What I've tended to find, there have been exceptions, but for most of the companies I talk to, there are usually no more than 3 things that they would actually want to talk about that their audience would also want to read. Primarily, your product or service is the most important. For many people, and especially for local businesses in York Region, your community is probably important to you. And the third one might be a charity. There are other things. I don't know the businesses of everybody who's listening today. So email me if you want to talk through it. Or you might just know what are the actual content pillars or content groupings that I'm allowed to talk about that my audience is going to be excited to read about. And again, why use them? Well, they're guardrails. So your content's going to be consistent. It's going to stop you from talking about things that aren't relevant. Let me give you a couple examples. A lot of people like to share memes because they're funny and engaging, but I've never seen somebody sell something with one. They don't make a lot of sense. They're great for your personal account. They're not usually great for a business. And the second one is things like, we just hit 10,000 followers on Facebook. And that's great. I know you're happy about it. Your audience won't care. And I promise, I've dealt with this on million count numbers with different clients, and the followers don't care. You really need to keep in mind that the person you're speaking to, you have a product or a service that they want to use. And you really want to isolate your time, because we're trying to keep this down. In a minute, we're going to go through our 30 minutes a day. It should really be sole focused on selling that product or service to people who want to use it. Okay, so every post that you're going to make within this calendar needs to fall under one of those probably 3 pillars. It can be less, it can be 2 pillars, it could be more if you think that's important, but every post needs to fall within it. What that means is that you are going to come up, the next big one is going to be Mother's Day. So the next thing I'm going to see on most of the people that I help with social media is going to be the Mother's Day post. And it's going to say, we want to wish a happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. And that's a great heartfelt post. It doesn't sell anything. And I get it. I promise I do. And people are probably mad at me that are listening right now. Turn that post into something that has a purpose. What do you want people to do after seeing the post? It should never be that you just want them to read it and be happy. That's good, but it doesn't help your business. And that's what we're here for today. So if you're going to make a Mother's Day post, how can you make that make sense within the product or service that you offer? If your pillar suddenly becomes then product, and the Mother's Day post is going to be about promoting your product, then the purpose is what? Link clicks, perhaps, maybe engagement. Maybe you actually just want them to comment and tell a story because it has some integration with your product or service. This is the hard part. The slide we're on now, this is the hard part, I promise. Once you get a handle around how to plan your content out for the month, this becomes really easy moving forward, and it won't take you more than an hour or two once a month. But actually starting to take the stuff you want to talk about and demanding that it makes sense to you and your business is the hard part. Now, another piece that you can do, if you've planned all your posts out in advance, you can schedule your posts. And a lot of people just go ahead and click publish and they don't know this. But for some of the brands that I help and deal with, we have posts scheduled a month in advance so that nobody has to be at a computer or at a phone at a specific time, because we want this post to go live at 4:15 when people are starting to take the train home or whatever it might be. You can have it scheduled right to the minute in a future date and time. So if you get to the point where you've planned your full month a couple weeks in advance and you've got your images and you've got your text, go ahead, take a lot of those posts, get them scheduled and dropped in there. If you have posts that are important in the moment, say you're going to be at a trade show and you want to be able to promote the fact that you're there from the trade show, then yeah, and you're still going to post live, and you can obviously just click publish and do that. But if a lot of your posts are just general promotion and not time sensitive, go ahead and schedule them in advance. And then the other large one, the 2 greatest difficulties are strategically creating content for your brand. The second one is the quality of photos for your social accounts. There are a couple tips. You don't need an SLR camera. They help. If you have one, they do a great job. They still take better photos than the camera in your phone, but the camera in your phone is probably enough in 2018. Most of the phones nowadays have far more powerful phones within them than my personal SLR that is now about 10 years old. They are great for taking photos. Where people fail taking those photos are in a couple of areas. Number one, a tripod is the one thing that I would actually recommend you invest the money in. You can probably find some locally. If you can't, Amazon carries them. A tripod like you're seeing on the right-hand side of the screen, where you can attach your phone. Most of them then link via Bluetooth to a piece that, a little remote that you would hold in your hand. You're able to frame your shot up and click that button and take a photo without any movement whatsoever. Everything is optimized, set and framed properly, and your arms aren't shaking while you're trying to take a photo. That makes a big difference. Not touching the phone and not trying to personally frame up photos can help. The second piece is the light box that you're seeing on screen. It's not that important, but a lot of people like it because they can really set up and frame photos in the background and make it look nice. Both of these things, again, are available on Amazon if that's where you want to go. If anyone listening sells these through a store locally, I would be 100% happy to include that link in the email or within the page. Let me know. But these two pieces alone, just taking a good quality camera with a tripod and then potentially with a light box, you can still go home. My wife runs a side business doing some baked goods, sets up on a couple of our tables in the house and puts some nice little things around that reflect the photo. So if she's doing Mother's Day baking, she might have some flowers set up around it, have the product in the middle, get some good natural light, and take the photo. You can do it, just take some prep and planning. Now, I promised some apps that are going to help make your life easier, and the first one is called Facebook Pages Manager. When you're trying to isolate the time you spend on social media, promoting your business to under 30 minutes a day, this particular app is going to be really handy. You can post from it. You can get notifications if somebody messages you. You can get notifications if somebody comments on your posts. You can immediately go in and respond to them. This is particularly helpful for any of you out there who run more than one business. So if you do have multiple businesses in your locally, you can put both of them or multiple ones in here and track. As you can see on the screen, you can in the second frame, you can see post a text, a photo, a video, an event. On the third image, page insights. So you can actually see how your page is performing from the app. And then the fourth one are things like inbound messages when people are trying to respond to you. You're able to engage with them right from there. So here's a quick deeper look at all three of those. So as an example, with this particular app, and you can do this for Facebook or Instagram, you can respond to people through the left. You can see some messages coming in, page insights in the middle, and then post directly from them. So I mentioned scheduling is a great way to do some of the month, but sometimes you have a post that needs to go live now and that you couldn't prep up because you just took the photo. You can definitely post from this app. The next one is if you get into doing ads, Facebook has an ads manager app that's going to make that easier for you to manage your Facebook and your Instagram ads. So if you want to boost your posts or you want to create a campaign or even just check and see how your campaigns are doing, this app available on iOS and Android is going to be really helpful for you. The next one is something called Hootsuite. I've included this just as one slide because we're not going to go into it today. We're really talking about managing it directly, but Hootsuite, for those of you who don't know, provides a free trial of allowing you to manage everything within one app. So you can pull in different social accounts, you can try different messaging, you can schedule and backdate, you can publish live, you can engage via comments, you can message people. It's a third-party piece of software that has been around for a very long time that has a very limited plan. If you only have 3 social profiles and don't need to do a lot of messages and you're doing this on your own, it will work. And then if you find it beneficial and more helpful than trying to manage it in multiple places at once, they do have paid platforms that aren't going to be as expensive as you might think and will help you manage your day-to-day. Okay. Creating audiences, we went over this a little bit for those of you who saw the Facebook, Instagram ad piece, but I'll go through this relatively quickly because we're at about 20 minutes to go. So targeting on Facebook and Instagram is really robust, and that means that you can find audiences very, very detailed by behavior, by interest, by keyword, by where they are, and then obviously retargeting, meaning people who've seen your content before or been to your website before. And there's a few different really good ways to set up an audience in the back end of Facebook so that when you're trying to promote your content, you don't have to do this every single time. So if you try to boost a post, we'll see in a minute, often you have to just, if you want to do it easily, you have to pick your personal fan base or your fan base plus fans, plus friends, pardon me. Whereas if you had a saved audience, it'll make it a bit easier for you. I'm going to motor through this because we have to get through the post boosting piece, but choosing a location is going to help you. There's a few different options on the screen. For most of you, you want people who live in a location or are in the location. The difference there being there are people who commute here near your business that would be included in the everyone in this location piece. But people who live in this location is just that, only people who actually make their home within the region that you're selecting. And so we can see on the screen, as an example, I built an audience a while ago of people that I sent an ad to for one of the webinars that was meant to be entrepreneurs within York Region. So you can see on the screen, I picked a variety of different cities within York Region with a 25-mile circle around. I actually reduced that to 10 miles, which is the lowest you can reduce it to. And then was able to start things like demographic targeting, reduce the age that I want to reach people, 24 to 55. You could reduce by gender or language if you wanted. And then you can get into more details on demographics and interest. See now, I typed in entrepreneurship and small business. Then I used the suggestion feature to start filling that in a little bit more. And I'm also able, if you want to, if on your side, if you've built an audience, but then you want to restrict people. So as an example, maybe you sell, maybe you have an ice cream shop, but people who or organic won't enjoy it. I don't know. I'm making something up off the top of my head. Then you're able to restrict or exclude people from your audience that you're going to define, that your content's going to get boosted to moving forward, so that it's very, very detailed. So that was what my audience ended up looking like of York Region entrepreneurs. I'm guessing a good portion of those of you on the webinar today might match that you are living within 10 miles of any of those cities, that you speak English, you're between 24 and 55, and match any of those interests in small business, entrepreneurship, being a small business owner or an independent business owner, things like that. And there are a couple other different ways once you've started building this that you can work with this. You can export your email list if you have one, and you can import it into Facebook and turn that into a targetable list of people who are already within your database. That's called a custom audience. And then you can also build what's called a lookalike audience. So if you had an audience of your existing customers, you could actually have Facebook build you an audience of people who resemble your current audience. All right. I'm moving quickly because I don't want to run out of time, and I wanted everybody to get a chance to see this post boosting piece. So boosting a Facebook post. If you go through the first webinar that's on loyalorder.com now, you'll have a greater look at how to build a proper campaign for Facebook and Instagram. What I'm talking about today is that you put a post up, and for some reason, maybe you've planned in advance to say, this is really important, I'm going to boost it. Or for a lot of people, you put a post live on Facebook and it starts doing well. People are engaging with it, tagging their friends, and you start thinking, wait a second, this post is doing really well. Maybe I'll throw $10 or $20 behind it and see if I can't get more business from it. So on Facebook, as an example, on the right-hand side, underneath this post and underneath all of your posts, most likely, you're going to see a boost post option. So if you push that, you're going to get a screen kind of like you're seeing now, where one of the first options you have is the chance to add a post button to your post. Do it. Why not? Because most likely you are attempting to either sell a product, in which case you could add an email or Facebook Messenger. You maybe want to add a link to your website. On the options on the screen right now, you can see things like shop now, book now, learn more, sign up, get directions if you have an actual retail shop, send message. If we didn't go into today on WhatsApp message as a customer service channel, but it is an option, and you can choose what makes sense. But what this is going to do is place a button within this post that is then going to link somewhere. So if you put shop now and it links to your website, that shop now button is going to suddenly appear on your post. And as it's promoted, people who click on it, they're going to go to your website. And here's where you start picking your audience. So we went through my entrepreneurship one a minute ago. For this particular client, we have fancy dessert fans within 25 miles of Newmarket because they make macaroons. So because we've built an audience and we've saved it, you can see it's on the screen now, and you can quickly select it without having to go through. Any of you who've boosted a post before know that generally, unless you just choose people who like your page and people who like your page and their friends, building your audience is a difficult part that's a bit time consuming. Today, we're trying to make it so that moving forward, you can do this all, post, strategize, boost, all of that, respond to people within 30 minutes a day. Spending that time to build your audience up front, you can see now how easy that was to just click that one block. The next thing is going to be your total budget, keeping in mind that that is your total budget, not your daily budget. So if you picked 7 days on the screen now, you're going to spend $20 total over 7 days, not $20 a day for 7 days. So there's a bit of a difference there. you can see the little block at the bottom of the screen that's going to tell you exactly what you'll be spending per day when you do this. Quick, small difference, but that's it. Put in the total budget you're comfortable spending, the number of days that you want to do it, make sure that those numbers make sense to you, and go ahead and click boost, and you're done. So because you built your audience and you knew what you were trying to accomplish, and because you knew your promotional budget from that pre-work on the spreadsheet up front, we can see how quickly it would take to boost your post. You're probably done in 2 minutes. Instagram, not much different. And in fact, I actually prefer boosting posts on Instagram. I think they work easier. The boost post button is a promote button on Instagram. Most often you'll see some text like you're seeing on the screen now. This post is doing better than 95% of your recent posts, promoted to reach a wider audience. Go ahead and click promote, and your options are going to quickly change. Do you want to get more profile visits, people coming to your Instagram profile? Do you want to get people to go to your website? Or if you do have a retail location, you want to reach people near your address to drive them into the store. Once you've started to build it, you can build the audiences the same way we did on Facebook. In this case, again, Fancy Dessert Fans. You can see how we built that out. Set a budget. Again, really easy. This case, the slight difference is going to be, and you have to remember this, is that when you're doing it on Instagram, it's your daily budget, not your total. You can see on the screen now, we're going to spend $5 a day for 2 days. That's it. And if we move that to 3 days, that total budget will go to $15, not 10. So slight difference than from Facebook. They're going to give you an overview screen that we see on the screen now. Make sure that all looks good. And if it does, you click create a promotion. And again, because you planned in advance, your post is probably up in less than minutes. Okay, I went too fast. Engage with customers. We're getting close to the end here. So we've talked about strategizing so that you have your spreadsheet up front and you know the stuff that you need to post every day. We've now talked about how you're going to boost that post within a couple minutes. The last piece really here is going to be engaging with your customers. The easiest way to do it, a lot of people don't know this, is that as you're sifting through Facebook and you see another brand that has posted something that's relevant to you, you can click, see on the next to the right of share is the headshot. That's my personal Facebook page. But if I click on that, then all of a sudden I can see different pages that I manage that I'm able to change to. And so suddenly by doing that, by selecting one of those, I become that brand or that company or my brand or company versus my personal account. And I'm able to like and comment. And that's how you'll see sometimes brands commenting on other brands' content just by using that feature. The other piece is that as you start using hashtags more often on Instagram and getting more comfortable with them, one of the easiest things you can do is clicking on that hashtag and then engaging with an audience there. So finding people, in this case, OCR training. We have a couple gyms locally. Perhaps they would want to click through this, find people locally, and just like the photo. For those of you who are active on Instagram and you get random likes in your photos, this is most likely how people are finding you. And you're able to find people relevant to your business, give them a like, a comment, perhaps follow them if they're particularly relevant to you. The next, an even better version though, is that if you're on Instagram and you tag a location, it could be your own location or you could be a brand somewhere else. Click on that and suddenly you've got a local audience of people who've been to that specific local place. This is much better than hashtags, which are global. This is local people. So finding local, and you can do this on the web version of Instagram as well. Go and load it up, start typing in a local business, and when you see that little marker that indicates it's a local location, click on it, and there's people who've been shopping. So on the screen now, Crow's Nest, my favorite pub locally. I can go there, find people who've shared photos from inside of that building. We're fairly sure then that they're local, and so you can engage with them, comment on their posts, things like that. And then there's an explore feature within Instagram as well. If you click on that, you're going to see a few things. Most often it's made up of photos and videos that people you follow have engaged with, but you're also going to see things like the public Newmarket or Aurora or East Gwillimbury Instagram story, where people have shared a public story in a place, and you're able to find other local accounts that you can engage with, local audiences. You can put polls up, which really work well. And you can even use it as an option to personally invite people to your business. If it's somebody you think is particularly relevant to what you sell or your product or service, then you're able to click and send them a personal message. And those personal messages on Instagram actually work remarkably well right now. Okay. I promised you that if you did some work up front, that in 30 minutes a day or less, you'd be able to grow and build your business online. 8 to 8:30. What we've seen today is from 8 to 8:10, you should be able to go in and engage with other people. Change your Facebook profile to your business, sift through, and in 10 minutes, you'll have plenty of time to go and type comments on other businesses' page, go on Instagram and sift through the feed, find local businesses, click like on the photos, talk with them, really start building that rapport with local businesses and local consumers. From 8:10 to 8:20, that's where I would shift to engaging with your audience. Find people who have commented on your posts, who've commented on maybe your Instagram post or engaged with that. Go find them, engage with them a bit. Just take the time to speak with them. From 8:20 to 8:25, that's where you either are going to make your scheduled post for the day and schedule it for later in the day, perhaps, or just post it live, or just confirm that the post that you have scheduled for the day is ready to go live. And then from 8:25 to 8:30, you should be able to boost your post. And again, that's your full thing. That's even being generous. It doesn't usually take me 20 minutes to do all my morning engagement if I need to, and it probably won't take you that long either. And you can see that within 30 minutes or so every day, you're going to, with that solid strategic upfront section a couple weeks before the end of the month, that everything is going to flow a lot easier. And I'm sitting here with my bulletproof coffee and have been able to do all of this within 30 minutes in the morning. And that is that. At 9:53, we have 7 minutes. I hope this was what you were looking for, and that I answered a lot of questions or helped to isolate those thoughts or questions you had and how to make this a bit more structured. I'm going to send an email out to everyone shortly that's going to include the 2 spreadsheets you saw. One is going to be your location information. One is going to be how to guide your content strategy. And again, just if you have a question for me, just reply to those emails. They go right to my inbox. I would be happy to help. I don't see any chats, so I don't see any questions. And so with that, I think we'll wrap it up for today. And everybody knows how to get a hold of me. I want to thank everyone for listening. I apologize again for the false start a couple weeks ago with the scheduled webinar. I'm glad that some of you made it out today. Any questions, contact me. I'll make sure that, there we go. There's my email address. And with that, thank you everyone for coming out. And I hope to see you again soon.